Here. As a reminder, we are recording this and we will be live streaming it. So, Mr. Maynard, agenda item number 3.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Smith. So tonight we have the opportunity to have a look at our budget compared to 10 months ago to where we're at now as we get into our last few weeks of our budget of this fiscal year. And so got some good news. I have a document in front of you that you can look at that I like to do. It's a historical perspective, so you can do some comparatives. I took this back even prior to Larry as superintendent, so you can kind of see some of the trends moving along. So if you look at the document in front of you, which I also have up on the screen, I'll just kind of start and move through the funds a little bit. You can see that the FY21 adopted budget back 10 months ago, with the whole COVID situation, we were very concerned that just really not knowing what to expect. And so some of the projections, you kind of look at the worst. We didn't know what funding was going to look like. We didn't know how COVID was going to impact us. And then throughout the year, we received a lot of ESSER funds from the federal government that really helped us financially. And Michelle has managed those for us very well. And I think that as a team, we have done a nice job of being good stewards, of not only those finances, but our taxpayers' money in moving forward. And so you can see there with the education fund, which is the biggest fund, from what we adopted to where we ended up, you can see that the revenues and expenses are different, and that's because of the ESSER funds. And we thought that maybe when I presented this to you back 10 months ago, we could experience a little over $19,000 of a loss in that ed fund. We were also in a year of contractual negotiations and not knowing how that would impact as well. And all this was done prior to those situations. So the good news is right now, as we finish up and amend, what we're basically going to do is go through this process tonight. And if it's approved by the board, then I will send this in tonight to the State Board of Education as an amended budget, because we'll need that on file for them. But as you can see, I'm looking at finishing it up with approximately a $45,000 surplus in the ed fund. So that's a lot better than $20,000 in the hole. Also, and when I do these, just as a reminder, I am very conservative. I inflate, you've heard me say many times, I inflate expenses and reduce revenues so that I'm always prepared for the worst. I have more of a contingency mindset in terms of financing, so that way I don't get surprises or get blindsided, in a bad way. With the so that's the ed fund. As you move down to the O&M fund, that's another fund that is used quite a bit for schools. We could take some of our expenses out of there in terms of salaries as well. But as we've looked at that, my concern was that we might end up with a $36,000 loss there, again, prior to some ESSER funds, not knowing what to project. And we should finish up right around $53,000 in the surplus there. So again, that's another good situation. Both the ed fund and the operations and maintenance are operating funds. They are not restricted. So those are kind of the funds that we live by, so to speak. As you move on down for the bond and interest, that really doesn't change. That's a fund that basically you levy what you think you're going to need to pay off your debt and your interest. And you always see about a $1,530 loss there. That usually falls in line with the interest and the fees that they pay that we incur as a district, and we don't usually levy that for the taxpayers. In other words, we didn't levy enough, so to speak. So that's where we ended up there. As far as transportation goes, and the bond and interest is a restricted fund, so you can only do certain things with that. With our transportation fund, you'll see that the prediction was we could really be in a bad situation 10 months ago, not knowing. Remember, we were talking about having to triple our routes and that kind of thing. And so thankfully, Charlotte has done a great job with transportation. We've made some decisions to reduce some of our expenses this year. It had to do with College Express, and had to do with not transporting preschool like we had done in the past, and that saved us quite a bit of money. So we're going to end up in a very unusual way. We've received our allocations from the state for transportation, and we should finish about $1,300 to the good. Usually your transportation fund, which is an operational fund, will run slightly negatively. because you only receive on a good year 80% reimbursement. So for us to be in that situation means that I think we've done a good job of containing our costs and being fiscally responsible there. As you move on down, the IMRF Social Security Fund, and if you have any questions along the way, just interrupt me. I would rather entertain your questions as we go, okay? IMRF Social Security, that's a restricted fund. And one of the things that we needed to do there from the auditor standpoint, he told us to kind of keep an eye on our IMRF Social Security Fund because it was starting to get a little higher than what they would like to see as an auditor. So we've tried to scale that back in terms of future levies and that type of thing. So we're running about where we thought we might there. So that is good. Capital projects, nothing really there. I will say that just as a reminder, we received a little over a year ago, just before COVID hit, the school maintenance grant. That was a matching grant. It's a $50,000 grant that we received from the state that I had applied for, which means state gives you 50, we put in 50, so you have $100,000 to do some specific work. Well, prior to COVID, I had submitted some work that we wanted to do, but then once COVID hit, that really changed our needs. And the state is not allowing to amend what it is that you want to do. And so I have not felt like the $50,000 from the district standpoint is where we want to spend it yet, but we've got time. They give you almost 2 years to make that decision. So we're postponing to wait to see what our needs are and our finances. But just a friendly reminder on that. Working cash, as you know, that we're in a good situation where we've increased our fund there. All of our funds have increased and put us in a good place. Our projection there should be the same as what we had 10 months ago. And then the tort fund, that is one where you can see going back to FY20 where we had kind of moving along, our tort fund was in a situation where we were getting too high. I think you might remember that conversation. And the auditor said, essentially in the tort fund, you're asking for what you need and not in excess of your taxpayers. And so what happens is over time, if you don't use some of those funds, it can accumulate to a point where you need to back off your levy. And so that's the situation that we're in here so that we're not having an excess there. So that is going to be a fund that's going to be adjusted with our levy coming up here this next December. And then health life, so we followed the auditor's direction there. And then health, life, safety, same as what we projected. And then at the end, you can kind of see down at the bottom, you'll see the $111,764. That is, again, that's what we're amending our budget for with the projection. I think it could be better than that, but being very conservative, and that's a whole lot better news than how I was feeling 10 months ago with potentially $180,000 in the hole because of the COVID impact. So all that to say, I think that all of our people that are working with finances here and our building principals, our custodian, head of maintenance, transportation director, Michelle, curriculum coordinator, everyone has done a great job of communicating, I think, and being fiscally responsible to put us in a good situation. So happy to present this FY21 amended budget to you tonight for your consideration and action for approval. We do have a deadline. We have to basically, really tonight's the night. Either we're going to approve it or not. And the state is requesting that we would make this amendment. So this falls in compliance with that. So I'm happy to entertain any questions that you may have on our budget amendment hearing. I will say one of the good practices about amending the budget that you're reminded of is that when you get a truer picture at the end about where you're at, obviously, but it also is a great starting point as you're building your FY22 budget, which my hope is that at the July meeting, you'll have a tentative one to look at then. So that's all I have, Mr. Smith. Unless there are any questions.
Any board questions? Any public comment?
So I will be asking as an action item for you to approve this at the regular meeting. That will be following this one.
Do I have a motion to close the budget hearing at 5:26 PM?
So moved.
Mr. Lynn?
Second.
Mr. Plattner? Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Plattner to adjourn the budget hearing at 5:26 PM. Bradford?
Yes.
Lynn?
Yes.
Ludwig?
Yes.
Plattner?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote one.
So we will pause as we get ready for transition to our regular meeting in 5 minutes.
Christmas. Okay. Doing well, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Oakwood Unit 76 Board of Education. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 5:32 p.m. Roll call, please.
Bradford. Here. Hicks. Janeski. Lynn.
Here.
Ludwig. Here. Plattner.
Here.
Smith.
Here. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As a reminder, we will be recording the meeting and live streaming it. Agenda item number 3, any recognition of guests, notices, communication, and public comment. Mr. Maynard, any communication?
No communications or notices.
Okay. Public comment. I hope that everybody had a chance to review the consent agenda as presented. I think Mr. Maynard has one addition to the consent agenda.
I do. This afternoon, we received a letter of resignation from our Ag FFA teacher at the high school, Rebecca Hughes. Sad to see her go. She's done a very good job for us. I think she's transitioning into maybe another career. So just want to offer that as an addition tonight to respectfully and honorably accept her resignation. And then we will begin the search process for replacement immediately.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Ludwig, Mr. Plattner, roll call, please.
Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Plattner to approve the consent agenda items as submitted. Bradford.
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Plattner.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote.
Agenda item number 5, is there any Oakwood education report? Mr. Jones?
We got our election results officially, so I will continue with your president. Eric Fenton at the high school will be vice president. Courtney Hemker will stay on as secretary. Jim Rupp stays on as treasurer. The building reps at Oakwood Grade School, Lacey Bowen and Jenna Everingham. At the junior high, Luann Graham and Shelby Payne. And at the high school, Teresa Cooper and Tyler Peterson.
Congratulations.
That's it.
Perfect, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Committee reports, Vase.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know, had our monthly meeting, and part of what we did at our most recent meeting was basically just to adopt and approve the budget there. So that was the main agenda item there. And for the VEDS, it's the same meeting. So it's just with a different group of people. That's our Vermilion Valley Educational Delivery System. That's used to be known as VOTEC, but it's our career tech ed that serves our kids in Vermilion County. And so we also did the budget approval there as well.
Thank you, Mr. Maynard. Administrative reports, Mr. Maynard.
Okay, so I just wanted to mention about our student resource officer. Just read a statement here if you don't mind. Beth Damilano, our student resource officer, has honorably resigned from the Village of Oakwood Police Department. As our SRO the past 2 years, she has added value with her expertise, compassion, and service to the Oakwood community and school district. She will be greatly missed, and we wish her well in her new endeavors. I am currently working with Chief Soderstrom for her replacement this fall. We have someone who we think we've selected. We're going to finish off some interviews within the next, probably the first week or two of July. And as soon as we get that together, we'll bring that to the board and to the administrators. So just wanted to give recognition and honor and respect for our police department and all the work that they do for us in our SRO. As far as strategic planning goes, you've seen some documents in your folder. I gave you basically an outline of the strategic planning process. This is based on my conversation with Ed Leadership Solutions, who will be contacting us here probably at the end of July to start getting things moving in August. Our target date is to start in August with our initial. So I wanted to give you an idea of some information that they had shared with me about what the process looks like and for our community. And then also, you probably noticed that last Friday, I sent out a letter basically to all our parents and community members and leaders in the community, letting them know that we're excited about this process, that we're getting started. And basically, it's an invitation if they would like to join us on that core strategic team to please contact me. So I have had some people contact me, so it's starting to fill. We know that we'll have our board members there as a part of that process, as well as the administrative team, and there will be others involved as well. So I'm keeping track of those that are interested, and I will keep you informed as we move along. Just want to see if you had any questions in regards to the strategic planning update at this point. Okay, I'm excited. It's going to be a great opportunity for us as we're moving forward as a school district together. And I already mentioned to you earlier, we're working on our fiscal year 22 budget. I plan to have that to you, my targets to have that to you in July instead of August, so that you get a good look at that. And it'll probably be fairly comparable to what you saw tonight for tonight's amended budget, but there are some things that we want to look at as I'm working with Shannon Wallace, our bookkeeper. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Maynard?
Yes.
Curriculum, Ms. Kimbrough.
I included, well, instead of my report, I kind of gave you an updated consolidated district plan overview. And in a nutshell, it's last year we focused on remote learning, and that's kind of the direction we went. And then this year, when I rewrote the plan, we're going to focus more on bridging the gap. So it's going to be just talking about curriculum, looking over data, and I've already spoken to the instructional coach about maybe moving some math chapters around and things like that. And we're going to get started in July. We're going to have teachers start coming out here in July and going through data. And I did it on my needs report, or on my needs assessment, I asked teachers that wanted to come in, and about 80% want to come in July and the beginning of August. So I told them to take June off, and then we'll start here in a couple weeks, and like I said, get going on that. So in order to submit my fiscal year title grants, I need to have this approved. So after you approve that tonight, I'll send it in tonight, and then get going on the other 3 grants. So that's it.
Any questions for Ms. Kimbrough? Okay, thank you. High school principal, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, since our last meeting, of course, we had graduation, which through all the concerns and nervousness and preparation, it went very, very well. We had lots of compliments on the grounds and the organization of it. There are many people who think we ought to do that again. I don't know that I would recommend going outside every year. I'm sure if the weather is nice like it was, it does seem like a nice event, but a lot of work put in behind the scenes. Thanks to John and Juice and all the teaching staff and everybody who did a lot of work with it. So it was a nice day. Don't know that I would recommend doing that all the time. Brevin Wells was our valedictorian, and Ricci Arcade was our salutatorian. We have now moved into summer school. Project Success is running that as credit recovery. We focused that basically on juniors and seniors to try to get credits back for them. It is a very strict in terms of attendance. If you miss that 3rd day, you're out. We've got a couple sitting in 2 days right now, but haven't missed that 3rd one. So those will run through July the 2nd. So we'll hopefully keep these kids in and pull them up. Most of them are in for 1 class. Some are going to try to get 2 done in the time. So we'll see if they can do that. Yeah, as you heard earlier, we are now looking for an ag teacher. We're already looking for English, and we're always looking for special ed. Hiring in June and July is not easy. April and May, I think you got a pretty decent shot. June and July, we'll just have to see what comes in. We have had no English apps since we lost our candidate. We thought we had her, and then she pulled out. So I don't know what we'll find her. So we're going to do what we can and see what happens. Mr. Siddons and the custodians and Chris and Michelle have already been all over the building getting ready for next year, painting rooms and technology and cleaning. So there's a beehive of activity, although they can't use the whole building since we do have a lot of summer school kids in there, but they're working around that and everything seems to be progressing well. We had a little bit of excitement. I don't know if you heard that our catalytic converters were stolen off 2 of the vehicles. So we got to play a little bit of detective work. My secretaries enjoyed that way too much. We've been watching camera and video, and finally John found our culprit, 6:30 5:30 that Sunday morning, the 6th. We have passed that video on to the police. They have had other people do this around, but they haven't got a car. We think we've got a car attached to this person, so we're hoping that helps too. And the next meeting, we're anxious to see Mr. Kyle Shelton, assistant principal, and so hoping he gets to be able to come into the high school soon before I'm done, so we can help him get started. That's all I've got. Oh, we have a blood drive today, student council blood drive. Still going on in the midst of the pandemic, and student council is doing great. Nice thing.
This is Mr. Lee's last board meeting as a high school principal.
There should be no tears for your last board meeting, I'm sure.
You make sure you take your nameplate with you, Mr. Lee.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Maybe we could get him back next year as the event coordinator for the graduation.
Very so. Yeah, that's why I specifically stated last meeting as a principal, because I've got some ideas how we can partner together.
About that. I don't know about event coordinator.
I'm thinking English teacher.
Oh, that's right. He does have that.
He does
He
have
has it.
that.
He has it. That's exactly right.
Just saying.
So moved.
So moved.
Any questions for Mr. Lee?
Great idea.
Thank you. Mr. Odell was not able to make it tonight. His report was in our packet. Junior high school, Miss Burton.
Good evening. Again, just to repeat what Mr. Lee said, graduation was wonderful outside, and I do want to thank John and Juice and all the sponsors that came out. It was a very nice event. I heard the same thing. Let's do it again, and let's not. It was really great for our kids and our families. Our big thing right now is summer school. I have 31 students in summer school, and I've got a couple, 2 days where they're doing a great job. What I enjoy is some of the kids said, this is really awesome. I get breakfast, I get lunch, and I'm learning. And I'm really enjoying that. And some of the kids that you never heard from are communicating and sharing, and they're leaving with smiles, and we're doing the right thing. So I'm really excited about that. Our project success is 6, except on Friday, and then we do have some of our summer school kids come back. They're learning ukulele, they're doing photography, and they're doing cooking. So our kids are really enjoying the summer and the things that we provide for them. So that's exciting. We're getting ready to prepare for the fall, and I'm talking to agencies that usually come into our buildings, but COVID wouldn't allow it. They're anxious to come back and join our staff. So Too Good for Drugs and our Survivor Resource Group will be coming back in the building. We're really excited about that and doing some of those community services for them. Next month, we'll ask you to approve handbooks. And I did have the revisions, a rough draft. Take one of these and pass it. I'll talk a little bit about it. Electronics, we started having trouble with Apple Watches. So we wanted to make kids understand that that's going to be treated as a cell phone. So we put that into our electronic policy. Discipline measures, I want to add an overnight suspension, which is just an avenue to ask parents to come in before their kids go back to class. And I think that communication, building your team together, is very successful. And so I wanted to add that in. Our grading and promotion was pretty wordy, and it really put weight on math and not the other grades. And so I adjusted it to give weight and priority to all 4 classes. PE, we will not be changing next year with not knowing what COVID's going to bring. We're just going to do tennis shoes. So I adjusted that up a little bit, and excuses we need to have to firm that up. And then the biggest piece that we're going to add is we did all the virtual, we did all the remote, and we really just sort of muddled through that, and it was uncharted territory, and now we know what we want. There will be times our kids will have to be remote because of quarantine or whatever. So I try to line this up educationally. I'm looking for expectations of what we want when a student's at home and how we can get that work in. Because I think that's some of our areas that will help fill our gaps if kids are home. And the only way a student should be virtual at this time is CDC, Illinois Department of Health, or if the nurse says. So parents can't choose that. That will come above. But I thought that was going to be something really important. So those are things that we'd like to add to our junior handbook. Thank you.
Ms. Burton, any questions? Grade school, Ms. Lepenis.
We are focused on summer school, so I just want to give a shout out again to our teachers, Dawn Brown, Jen Rupp, Randy Norton, Ashley Woodard, Tiffany Johnson, and Carol Moore. We have 54 students participating in summer school. We have had a few that just never came, so they dropped off the roster, but for the most part, kids are having a really good time. Like what Ann said, we had a little one the other day. It's, I just love summer school. I wish we could do this all the time. So they're having a lot of fun, and the teachers are doing an excellent job. Custodians are busy pulling out classrooms and doing their annual cleaning. I will also have handbook revisions for the board meeting next month. Basically, there was one big addition from the model student handbook, which was school operations during a pandemic or the other health emergency. And it basically just goes on to say that it's up to the school district for the most part as to how they will run things. A few additions to visitors and home and hospital instruction. A lot of these are just minor wording changes that they put into it. And then I did add in what Ann to model after her with the smart watches. So, but you'll have that all next month. Any questions?
Ms. Acton.
All right, so I, to echo what Ms. Lepenis said, I worked with summer school for the first couple weeks, and then I officially started my summer break Monday. So it has been really great working with the kids this summer. Things went pretty smoothly. I thought it was great having the Project Success program there with us. Been working on basketball and officially canceling our 5th and 6th grade games and getting everything set up for as we transition to playing with the junior high. Also working on securing subs for next year and just touching base with all of those that are on our current sub list, because it is getting more and more difficult to find people to come in. And so I felt that making personal phone calls to them has gone a long way, and just securing those people for next year and just closing out this school year and getting everything ready for next.
Any questions from Ms. Acton?
I just going to ask, are we in line paying subs about same as other county schools? Are we in line with
Well,
that?
we have been, but I'm afraid that some of the districts may be upping that this summer. I haven't heard too much about that yet at our superintendent's meeting. Right now, we're $100. So there are some districts, because it's so competitive now,
Right.
you know, that they're jumping out. So I'm going to have to find out kind of what's going on out there around us, and we may have to make an adjustment to secure that. So I know you sent me some information and some data, you know,
So I
related
think
to that.
We might run into that problem, to be honest with you. I know that Rossville and Bismarck are using some ESSER funds and have jumped it to like 125, 135. And I feel like they're comparable to the quality of our community. And that's what sold people this year to come in, because they love our buildings. But financially might be something to look at.
So I'll do some research with our area superintendents and then take a look at our budget, see what we can do so that we're at least where others are at around us. But no, it's a good topic and I appreciate it.
Tim's probably interested in it.
How much would it cost? What do you think?
It's not worth 125.
I'll take Jesse's class.
It's got a lifetime pass for mine.
Thank you, Ms. Acton. Curriculum, or I'm sorry, technology, Mr. Richardson.
I don't really have too much. We're working on the new technology that's going in. I've got everything ordered. Luckily, I got the Chromebooks ordered in time, so I've got 330 of those here already, ready to go for next year. And luckily, we found a grant for those, so those were actually paid for 100% through E-rate. So that was a nice $100,000 purchase that we were able to just send to a grant. I've got new computers, new monitors, and the Promethean boards for the high school and the junior high. computers and monitors should be here in time. We're a little worried about the Promethean boards. Like with all materials, everything there's a shortage of. So when did you order those? About a month ago?
Yeah, I ordered them at the beginning of May.
Yeah, so we ordered them as soon as we could. We're just hoping they'll get here in time. But the teachers will have new computers and new monitors. So we're excited and look forward to that.
We ordered 6 Promethean boards in February that we have not gotten yet. So that's kind of what
Wow.
we're going by.
Any questions for Mr. Richardson? Thanks, sir. Ms. Lunt with Transportation could not be here tonight. We do have her report in the packet. Maintenance, Mr. Siddons.
Summer started off pretty busy already. With summer school, like they said, it's kind of thrown a damper in some of the things. A lot of vacations going on right now, so it's kind of a slow start, but the ones that are working are getting things done, moving along. July is probably going to be a real busy month. And depending on what Chris and Michelle do to me, it could even be busier. Between all the other stuff that I got going, I did start on, I told Mr. Maynard, I did start on doing some of the LED lighting in the district. Started out the high school, freshman hallways about done, so that's in between everything else we're doing. So it's all going to depend on what Chris gets in and how far we can get with those. You know, that's going to be kind of a fill-in project to keep moving on. Custodians are doing very well, so we'll just have to wait to see what happens there. The gyms are being done July the 8th and July the 16th, so coaches aren't going to be happy with me, but we got to get them done. So the junior high gym will still be open, so if they do want to go, we can have the junior high gym. So otherwise, things are going well.
Any questions for Mr. Siddons? Thank you, sir. Agenda item number 8, old business. 8A, Oakwood Grade School and Oakwood Junior High School consolidation and build out.
Okay, so just a little update there. I pulled up the most recent documents that I sent you for G&H, which we got from Amoresco after our last meeting. So I'm sure that you've had a chance to look at that. I haven't had a chance to talk with all of you about that individually, but have had a little bit of response. So I wanted to get that information to you, pull that up. I think we need to have some discussion tonight, about interest, what we're looking at, and kind of what direction we want to focus on moving forward, so that way we can begin working out and chiseling away some of the details with Amoresco. I believe they're actually tuning in tonight, listening, so that they're informed about our conversation, which I invited them to be a part of virtually. The other big item that needed to come alongside this was me working with David Pistorius, who's our first mid-state bond agent, to find out what's our borrowing capacity, what's available to us. So you have a document that I presented to you that I just got this afternoon. So in general, what I would say is from what I'm seeing is that if the direction that you want to go is to look at something along the lines of, say, option G or H, we're looking at more money. So in a sense, what I worked with today was a new schedule with our bond agent to see if we had to borrow $3 million. In other words, the $2.5 million, essentially. Technically, it's 2.2 right now because of some withholding that we have to do with that. But we're also hearing there's another line of ESSER funds coming up behind that, but we've not actually seen that yet, but that's what we're hearing, which could be around $800,000 we're hearing. So we're kind of putting that on the shelf right now. We're going to treat that as if we won't get it, but it is being talked about right now. So let's say we've got the $2.5 million, we borrow $3 million, that gives us a capacity of $5.5 million that we'll be looking at for a project, which kind of comes more in line with something of this nature. What I wanted to know was, what's it look like in terms of a schedule? So when I look at the schedule, and I talked to David today, Pistorius, he said basically you can see, if you look at the prior levies how that goes through June 1st of 30. That's where our current bond is ending, okay? So then he built a schedule for me that would take us out 1, 2, 3, 4 to 5, looks like 5 more years that would extend our levy, but we could maintain the same tax rate. So we would not have to increase our taxes. We'd be able to extend it out and, 4 to 5 years. And none of this factors in, again, what I'm hopeful of is with the TIF renewal that comes back to the school district, that essentially is another $250,000 to $300,000 roughly. That I think, in my mind, I think of that revenue that we're not getting now, that we're not using for operational. In my mind, I think one of the things that we need to consider is maybe utilizing that money along the lines of something like a sales tax type situation, where that money is allocated for facility improvements or any other pertinent needs that come up upon us. So that's just an idea, for that. So back to this, that's basically the information that I received this afternoon in regards to borrowing capacity, and we would do this through working cash. Because we are not building a new facility, this is an add-on or a renovation. We do not have to do a full referendum of voting. What we would do is continue to be fully transparent with our community. Whatever project we decide to do, we do have to inform the community. We would anyway. But one of the things that we have to do is put our plans on our website, which is required for ESSER funds. And also we have to show evidence of how we informed and sought input from the community, which we would do anyway. So, but that is something that's required that we would need to do. But because we are not building new, we don't have to do a full referendum. However, if there was a group in the community that was opposed to this, then they could form a petition. Technically, it's kind of referred to as a backdoor referendum. They could stop it if they wanted to, as our general public. But the information that I'm getting has been very supportive of this concept and idea of how we can improve educationally and for our community with something of this nature. So that's the information I have to put out there. I'll try to answer questions, but really it's just a matter of I need some help from our board tonight in giving me some guidance on the direction that you feel like we need to go in terms of a design so that we can bring that to Amoresco and start moving forward with what we're going to borrow and how it's going to lay out and the designs and those types of things. You did also see that I did ask them to start putting together some thoughts and ideas about another gym and that kind of thing. And I think we might want to approach this in terms of phases. What's the priority phase right now? And that's getting our 7th and 8th graders taken care of and our staff and consolidating that. And then I think from there, once we know where we end up with that design, I think that will help guide us for a future vision about some of these other things that we want to do in terms of a gym and, concessions out by the soccer field and whatever other possibilities that can come for us in the future. So that being said, sorry I talked so long, but I want to give you some information. I'm handing it back to you, Mr. Smith, for the board.
So from the board, we currently need to come up with that next step of a design that we would like to see move forward. And then we publicly display that, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And all this information I've made available in our public folder online, to our people. So they see what's being discussed. But yeah, once we pick a design, what our intentions are at this point as the next step in terms of borrowing, that information needs to be communicated and provided to the public. And I can do that through our website and getting things out and that type of thing.
So essentially the next step may be a straw poll to see what people are interested in and know where to go because we can't officially take any action.
Could you go over the two new designs, just the likes and the differences maybe for us to,
Yes,
and maybe cost wise?
yes. Find that, I think the biggest difference, you find that email was related to, I think one was 13 classrooms, one was 11. Does that sound right? G was 13, I think, wasn't it, Mr. Plattner? Wasn't that the biggest difference between the two? And that,
And the other, and H was 11?
I believe so.
You can see that second floor doesn't have those two extra rooms.
At the very bottom of their proposed plans, they discuss that the G is that 13 classroom, 1 band room, 2 additional sets of restrooms and an office. And option H has the 11 classrooms, the 1 band room, 2 sets of additional restrooms in the office.
This was the double level that we were talking about at our last meeting. Oh, did Mrs. Burton or Miss LaPennis, Miss Acton, in terms of grade school and junior high, I know that we have a document where you've been kind of put some information in about some things that you're interested in and so forth. Do you have any thoughts on anything that we're talking about here in designs? Okay.
I'm not a spatial architectural person, so.
It's okay. I'm not trying to put you on a spot, but I just this is important
Yeah,
for you all.
I feel like as long as Anne has what she needs, we're good. We're good now. So, I think the biggest concern is making sure she has what she needs for her student.
Currently, we have 10 classrooms at the gym. And then we're getting ready to change. So either of these will work. The thing is, with the bigger one, then we would also have more, that the 10 rooms do not count a library. And does not count maybe an area for teachers' lounge, because our teachers have never had that kind of spot. So this would be so nice. That's pie in the sky. I'll take what I can
Yeah.
and we'll make it work. But they both, I think, will meet a need. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Does that mean to just match what you currently have at the junior high? That the only drawings we have here that would match their needs would be A, B, G, and H? I mean, I'm going through the 8, 9, 9, 10. You certainly won't want to do this and build only 10.
Yeah.
And then 8, 8, and then B said has an 11. So the fit your needs you're talking about is narrowed down now to A, B, G, and H.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And A was 4 million. B was 4.5 to 4.7, and these others are 5.5 to 6.
Yeah, adding the second layer, obviously has an impact. I guess from what I'm thinking, just to put it out there, as I look at this, I feel like that if we're going to make this is a one-time opportunity.
Yes.
And I really think we need to consider, seizing the moment. My biggest concern would be that we build it and then 5 years down the road you say, oh, I wish we'd have put in 2 more classrooms.
Yeah,
and it's kind of too late, And so I feel like that if we can find that, not go too low or too high, but we can find that path in here that we all collectively feel comfortable with, it looks like from a borrowing standpoint, we're actually in a pretty healthy place. We've restructured our bonds already a few months ago, and said I talked with David. That was my biggest concern. I felt like the borrowing schedule was, for me anyway, as superintendent, was going to kind of direct me to which was going to be available. And I felt like after speaking with him today and looking at the schedule on paper, I just feel like things are kind of lining up for us here in a good way.
You do want, I like them being together, but I also like there's some idea of separation where the junior high gets their own and the grade school gets their own. And having looked through it, I think the two-story on that side gives the junior high kind of their own identity, which I think is needed.
It gives us that additional space that we don't wish we would have done 5 years from now.
My second concern is that you wouldn't want to spend too much to go too far that what you're going to do with the extra gym or the restrooms and the things you need for the soccer entity is that you wouldn't want to push that plan so far out that it's not realistic.
Good point.
I mean, I don't want to just be a part of something that threw out a picture for you to look at. This is something you might like down the road. I'd like to stay within reason so that this is still truly on the table.
Yeah.
And by on the table, I don't mean the next 2 years or this, but
Right.
feasible.
I agree.
But
I think talk about alignment, when we look at these things aligning, the other thing that's lining up for us, in my opinion, is strategic planning. That's coming in at the right, perfect time for us to be able to look at the goal setting for what could become next. And I've informed Ed Leadership Solutions of what our conversations are right now, so they know kind of where we're at coming in. So that's what I'm seeing, but I'm more interested in what you're seeing.
Mr. Lynn, do you have, so like I said, we cannot take action. Do you have a preferred plan that Mr. Maynard could work with?
in my opinion, either G or H, they're close enough that somebody that uses the buildings, I have no difference.
Ms. Ludwig?
Well, with H, would that give you what you need, or, I mean, more than what you need?
It would pretty well match what we have.
That would match what you have. That would not, but G would give you
G could give us some things that we could share. For example, Lisa and I talked, I know our room outside the garage, we talked about making a fitness room. We could take one of those rooms and make that be part of our PE. It could be utilized for staff. It can be utilized for athletes. So we could grow. I mean, that's just one brainstorm about something that we could share across the whole building. So if we had other rooms, it wouldn't necessarily have to be in junior high. We could make it available to all kids.
We could also do makerspace room that may be
Makerspace,
shared between the grade school and junior high, because we had to make ours mobile. So
Would we share a library?
I don't know how we would work that out schedule wise. That would be, I think that if you were to ask Karen, she'd prefer they'd have their own library, but because that would be an issue.
I know we're
Yeah,
doing,
but with the 13,
We would have one.
That'd be the issue with G, not H.
The library in
Yes.
junior high
Or
now
H,
is
not-
technically in
In the
classroom.
It is a classroom, so
Okay.
yeah, I could utilize one of the classrooms.
yeah, if you had G.
So then that would take us H off the books and G is the one you want
Yeah,
to look at.
because H is what she has right now, so it gives her.
One room difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
What-
wouldn't do it
what's
for one room.
The monetary difference in those two.
It said 5.5 to 5.95. So it's 5.5 to 6.
So $500,000 for 2 more rooms.
Well, it was an estimate for both, so.
Just thinking out loud is, we think of the school as the classroom, she's got 7 and 8, but really it's a big room, it's a library, it's a teacher's lounge, it's a cafeteria. There's all those other things that aren't just classroom that people who aren't in the building where they don't think about it. I mean, there's custodial closets and all kinds of spaces that You guys gotta spend the money, so I understand that. I think, I mean, she's crammed into her rooms now, so when she says, she's being very nice. H, I think, would give us what we've got. Her library is a classroom. And she doesn't have a teacher's lounge. And there's no nurse. Well, this year, we needed nurses' rooms. And we now have social workers in the building. And you just need so much more private space. I feel like education has moved that way. So when she says this would give us what we got, yeah, she can make it work. She's done that. But the other one would give you extra flexibility for the other things that a school needs.
That's why I asked you the questions. Yeah,
Yeah.
but what's best gonna serve the junior high? When I look at the cost, but in the long run and over time, you know?
So you would gain one room with the switch, with H.
That was two of those 11, 13.
So you have 8, 9, 10. You have
10 is classrooms, I've got.
And one of
4
those is the library.
Okay, I counted 4 for my 7th grade, 4 for my 8th grade, 1 special ed, 1 special services, which is social work and psychology. And the library would be additional, so there is 11 if you wanted to count today. 11 if you count today. That's not counting cafeteria that we use for a classroom. That's not counting the stage that we count as a classroom. You know, we find every little nook and cranny, all of us do. So 11.
I like the conversations too that we've had about fine arts with our band. You know, it's one of the things that sometimes can get left behind when you're looking at a lot of different facilities, which all are important. But right now, you know, I feel like that our music department, you know, we need to show a little bit of a commitment there as well, because right now they're teaching off of stages, you know, at the junior high and the grade school, and I know we've got great people, thankfully, that are leading these kids, and I think to have a facility, a room where we can place these kids in so that they don't feel like we're just kind of pushing them into a corner somewhere, I think is an important message that we send to our students as we look to grow and provide opportunities for kids that way.
Well, I would say that proposal G.
Gee.
Bradford?
Whichever one has the 13.
That's G.
Yeah.
Blunt? I agree.
I think that it's important to have that additional space, not to, $500,000 is a lot of additional money. But we look at the benefit we could get from it for our students, I think it's. Mr. Lynn, you had mentioned G or H.
Oh, I struck that out as, when she added the extra room, you were gaining nothing by spending $5.5 million. So that was so I'm on board with everybody else on G.
Mr. Manager, you have a straw poll, what we'd like to see.
Okay.
That route.
That's very helpful. So I can, again, get back to our bond agent. I can get back to Amoresco, let them know the design that we're looking at. Now let's start to get down to some details and know what our ceiling is in terms of borrowing and the financial commitment here.
And Amoresco can provide better cost estimates too at that time. We said, once we nail down the design, what
Yes.
they can do for cost estimates for the build out and our savings annually to the district to help offset the additional costs of this building.
So just to confirm, because this is a big step. The School Board of Education here is directing me to move forward with Design G, working with Amoresco and our bond agent and looking at potentially borrowing 3 million to come alongside the 2.5 that we'll be getting to move forward with the process of consolidating and bringing those 7th and 8th graders up to our grade school. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes,
Right.
yes, with a few caveats, right? So we need to put a cross-functional team together that has stakeholders involved and maybe some community members. Because this is nowhere near, the only thing we've decided on is a footprint.
Exactly.
It's nowhere near laid out. We need an estimate for what Amoresco is going to charge us for this design. It needs to be in that price, to be quite
Yes.
honest with you, but at some point, there's going to be a decision point where a shovel goes in the ground, and then it's final. We're not final
Yes.
yet at this point. So if we were to not go forward with this, are there charges associated with their work? I don't want to get a $500,000 bill for design and consulting sources from Amoresco.
Yes.
If we decide not to do it.
Basically, until we, basically sign the papers and
Right.
take board action, nothing happens at that point. And I did check to see what is their rate as far as what they charge, and they're anywhere from 6 to 7% that's built into the price. I know that a lot of places it's 10%, and some places right now, with materials being what they are, they can be as high as 20%. It just depends on who you go with. So I think one of the advantages we have with going with a performance contractor, again, is it helps us with that a little bit. But yes, we're nowhere near, a decision yet, but this is the vision we're moving forward
Let's
with.
start putting this vision together.
And that-
Getting some details.
And that helps Mrs. Kimbrough, as well,
Yeah.
with our grants.
So Ms. Kimbrough, when do you need an official board action to?
I don't, so I already have ESER 2 written with set aside money for this project.
Okay.
As soon as I send it to them, they're going to send it back and say, basically, what is this for? Because I technically can't write it until ESER 3, which comes out in July. So as long as I would have a blueprint, a dollar, like something to upload to them to show legit, this is what I'm setting aside money for, and then go into the breakdown and all the details in ESER 3, then we're good to go. Worst case scenario is they say that I can't, and then I spend $450,000 on something else, and then just figure out how it translates into the other one. So it just basically, I'm nervous to send it in without a decision, because if I send it in without a decision and they send it back to me and I'm like, I don't know, we haven't decided, I don't know how much, I don't know what it, but at least if I had a plan and a projected amount, because it's not for the full amount, it's just gonna be for a pocket of those funds, a set aside, and then just, I clarified in there that I would send, once I knew, then I would send that. So tonight, if you approve that district plan, I'll send that, I'll upload that, and then I will upload my ESER 3. Again, knowing it's going to come back and they're gonna have questions, but I also have emails saying that I could set it aside. So I just have to have all my ducks in a row to answer questions when it's denied. So if you decide tonight that that's what we're gonna push forward with it, I'm gonna send that off, because I feel like we discussed it at a board meeting and we have a plan, and well, the worst case scenario is I amend it and we figure out what else we're gonna do with it. But like I said, if we're gonna get kicked back, I need a couple of weeks to get that figured out and get everybody on board with our plan. So I'm good.
So realistically, Mr. Manager, you have our thoughts from our straw poll, and maybe in July even, we can come back and take action, possibly, depending on how we work with our community stakeholders along the way.
Absolutely.
Will we go ahead and post this, just to get public input, because I know that would be a question.
Yeah, I think that'll be something you and I'll work together on, that we're posting this. This is our focused vision right now that we're working on, and put it out there that way. No decisions have been made yet, other than this is how we're lining up. And we need community input before we go any further.
And then I can take that and upload that to whatever we post, just to show
Yeah.
our commitment to.
Yeah.
I would
think it's
recommend
good.
teacher input somehow too. I don't know if Jesse could help you out with that or Ann, but I think especially from the junior high staff, it'd be important to hear.
That's what I meant when I said stakeholders was get some teachers.
Yes,
I'm
and
gonna
and
post
grade
in my
school.
Friday
Yeah,
email,
from
we'll
both
have a copy.
both of them. How we make
Yeah,
this
and
look.
I think that I would have to upload all.
Yeah, now that we know what our focus is, that now we can start, wheels can start to
Couldn't have
move.
this conversation until we had this conversation.
Right.
Right.
Now it's time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any further discussion? Agenda item 8B, ESER 3 in the building bond and interest funds.
Okay. I think that pretty much was already spoken to.
Okay. And if anything additional on that, that was what you talked about earlier with our capacities and,
Yes, sir.
okay. Then that would have been your step C also, talking about that strategic planning, which we talked about how we're going to be transparent, inclusive with both our community members and our staff, and move forward.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all the work. Thank you all, everybody who was involved in this. It's a big deal. Every time I look at this, I think, well, what's the next steps? And you guys are really, yeah, I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. Agenda item number 9, new business. We have a consideration and action on the consolidated district plan. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, that was just a reminder again that as Michelle spoke to this earlier, we're going to need to approve this tonight. I'll be recommending that we approve that later at our action items so that we can get moving forward with our title consolidated plan. And this is routine mentioned. We do this every year.
Mr. Mayor? Agenda item number 10, we have no need to go into closed session. Agenda item number 11, consideration and action. Our first action item, 11A. We have a recommendation to rescind the offer to employee Tristan Miller at the Oakwood Grade School as a full-time custodian due to compliance issues. Mr. Maynard, any further discussion on that?
Not at this time.
Okay.
When we recommend to hire someone, it's always pending board approval and filling out the proper paperwork and background checks. So at this time, I would ask that we would rescind that.
We have a motion to rescind the employment offer to to Tristan Miller.
So moved. Go ahead.
Mr.
Second.
Plotner first, Ms. Ludwig second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Motion by Plattner, seconded by Ludwig to approve to rescind the offer to Tristan Miller as presented. Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Plattner,
Yes.
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 2.
Action item 11B, we have a recommendation before us to employ Kevin Siddons to fill the vacancy of full-time PM custodian. He's currently a part-time custodian at Oakwood Junior High School. He will actually be on step 2, correct, Mr. Maynard?
Correct.
So Kevin showed interest. I talked to Ann about that. We were both in agreement that he deserved the opportunity to be in a full-time position, and he fits in really well with the custodian, so it's been a really good fit.
Do I have a motion to that recommendation?
So moved.
Mr. Lynn?
Second.
Ms. Bradford? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Bradford to approve Kevin Siddons' employment as presented. Ludwig,
Yes.
Plattner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 3.
Action item 11C, we have a recommendation to approve Lexi Smith for the Oakwood Junior High School softball head coach position, pending Oakwood Board of Education approval for the 2021-2022 school year. She'll begin step 2.
She is our varsity coach at the high school, does a wonderful job. She's passionate about something. I'm excited to see her grow this program.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation?
So moved.
Ms. Bradford?
Second.
Mr. Plotner? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Bradford, seconded by Plattner to approve Lexi Smith employment as presented. Plattner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 4.
Agenda item 11D, we we have a recommendation to appoint Kevin Rupp as the assistant softball coach for the Oakwood High School for the 2021-2022 school year.
He was a volunteer assistant this year, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And we kind of want to show support for him, so went ahead and go ahead and hire him as assistant coach for next year. To help us.
A motion to accept the recommendation?
So moved.
Mr. Lynn?
Second.
Ms. Bradford? Any further discussion? Roll call?
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Bradford to approve Kevin Rupp employment as presented. Smith,
Yes.
Bradford. Yes. Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Plattner.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 5.
Agenda item 11E, we have a routine mention. It's a recommendation to approve the fiscal year 2022 consolidated district plan as presented. Mr. Mayor?
Nothing really to add there. This is basically our title funds, and we get a lot of money through this, so we would really appreciate it if you would approve that for us tonight.
I second that.
Do I have a motion to accept the recommendation?
So moved.
Ms. Bradford?
Second.
Mr. Lynn? Any further discussion? Roll call?
Motion by Bradford, seconded by Lynn to approve the consolidated district plan as presented. Bradford. Yes. Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Plattner,
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 6.
Action item F, action item F, we have another routine mention, recommendation to approve the 2-year renewal of the Oakwood Salt Fork High School Athletic Cooperative for soccer, cross-country, and wrestling.
The principals and 2 athletic directors met in a Zoom meeting to go over any issues that have arisen. They were all minor and we hashed it out pretty quickly. Both schools are happy that we provide those sports and full squads.
Mr. Lee, have a motion to accept the recommendation.
So moved.
Mr. Plattner?
Second.
Ms. Ludwig. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Motion by Plattner, seconded by Ludwig to approve the Oakwood Salt Fork Athletic Co-op as presented. Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Plattner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bradford. Yes. Motion carried by roll call vote 7.
Action item G, another routine mention, we have a recommendation for the 6-month semi-annual review of closed session meeting minutes to remain sealed.
Yeah, this is just a routine mention. We do this every 6 months. Along with that, also you'll see in here, there's an opportunity here that we have to for destruction of any audio recordings that are 18 months or older. And these are just routine, typical procedures. So it's kind of all into one action item here, if that's okay.
Okay, so the action item here is actually to keep them sealed and to destroy any audio recordings over 18 months old.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion to approve the recommendation.
So moved.
Ms. Ludwig?
Second.
Ms. Bradford? Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Ludwig, seconded by Bradford to approve to keep closed session minutes sealed and to destroy recordings over 18 months old. Is that correct?
Correct.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Plattner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Lynn.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote 8.
So, Ms. Curry, it's 18 months or older for the language.
Okay,
Thank you. Sorry about that.
no, that's fine, thank you. Let me get that proper.
Action item H, we have a recommendation of 3% raises for fiscal year 2022 for non-union positions. The bus drivers, unit office staff, and administrators, they'll be returning in their same position.
Correct. As you know, these are the people that are outside the collective bargaining agreement. Our collective bargaining agreement we finished with were 3% raises for people. So this is basically for all of our people, as Mr. Smith mentioned, our bus drivers that will be returning, anyone coming in new is in a different situation. And then also for our administrators there, people that are exempt administratively would be Mr. Odell because he's starting a new position, Mr. Shelton, who's starting a new position, and our new SRO. So those are people that are exempt, and we do a contract specifically for the SRO with the village anyway. And then the rest of those are our unit office staff that kind of the heart and soul of what we're doing. So I've looked through the numbers here. We're in a good place. Just in case you're wondering, in terms of salaries and wages for the school district, comparable to this year to next year, we're going to be pretty much at about the same place. As you have people retire or people move on and that type of thing, sometimes things can balance out in a good way. So, we're in a good situation financially here with our ed fund with that. So I would like to recommend tonight for your consideration that we would apply those 3% raises for FY22 for the non-union positions, as were mentioned by Mr. Smith, that will be returning in their same position.
Have a motion to accept the recommendation?
So moved.
Mr. Lynn?
Second.
Ms. Ludwig? I forgot. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Motion by Lynn, seconded by Ludwig, to approve the 3% raise for the non-union positions as presented for fiscal year 22. Plattner,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Bradford. Yes. Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote now.
Our next regular meeting is going to be July 21st, 2021 at 5:30 PM. Do I have a motion to adjourn at 6:33 PM?
So moved.
Ms. Bradford?
Second.
Mr. Plattner? Roll call, please.
Motion by Bradford, seconded by Plattner, to adjourn at 6:33 PM. Smith,
Yes.
Bradford. Yes. Lynn,
Yes.
Ludwig,
Yes.
Plattner.
Yes.
Motion carried by roll call vote now.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Have a great evening.